good at finding his way and getting back up into the perching. Sean's been blind probably since he was a baby, so it's all he's ever known, so he's pretty adapted to it at this point.
And how does he know where all the good leaves are?
Sense of smell. So that's how koalas find and source their food. They use their scent of smell, and they're very, very good with it. They can identify what they want to eat. And once again, he knows where it is. So you'll see if he decides to come over and eat, he'll kind of reach around and find a leaf, and then he'll sniff down until he finds the good stuff that he wants to eat, and that's what he'll go for and he'll target. I obviously can't speak koala, so I can't ask Sean, but from everything we can kind of judge, it doesn't seem like his disability affects him too much. He eats really well, maintains a really good body weight, doesn't display any behaviours that we consider alarming. He doesn't pace, he doesn't self-harm, anything like that. So
he's quite happy.
Yeah, so he does what a koala is supposed to do. Which is very good to see.
That's lovely, that makes me happy.
Yeah, he's a good little boy. So a little bit about feeding koalas, because it is a full-time job.
Oh, okay.
So as I mentioned, all of this 1 day's worth of food. In Australia, there's about 700 species of eucalypt. Of that 700 species, only about 60 of them are edible for koalas. And love koalas to bits, they're not the smartest animals. So a koala that's native to, say, Rockhampton, it will only eat about 3 or 4 species that grow locally in Rockhampton. So I could get a koala from here and teleport it down to New South Wales into a tree that is totally edible. It could eat all that food, and it would sit there and starve to death, because according to its nose, that's not food and it can't eat it. It is a problem in zoos. The way we get around it is from a very young age, we try and expose our koalas to as many different species as we can and get them used to investigating and trying new browse. So we cut locally around the area. We're a council-based zoo, so we can go cut along the roadsides and stuff like that. But we also have a plantation that has species that don't grow locally here in Rockhampton that we can cut from to kind of supplement his diet. So yeah, full-time job feeding koalas, and they eat a lot. So with the culling situation, so from the bit of research I've done, the main issue is bushfires. So it has removed a lot of the food in the area, and there's currently too many koalas and not enough food for the population. And that is causing starvation and killing a lot of koalas in a very, very negative way. The way the government's, like in the area that those koalas are in, it's very mountainous, very thickly forested. There's not really any way to access it on the ground. Like you can get one ranger up in there, but there's no way to get bulk amount of people in there where, you can actually do rehab and rescue koalas. So they are doing a percentage cull. So they're trying to cull that population down to a point where it can survive and thrive on the food that is available. So because they are shooting from helicopters, there is definitely potential that they are killing healthy koalas, and they probably are. But overall, it'll eventually level out to where the koalas will be able to maintain their population off the food that is available. That is my understanding of it. It is such a hard thing because, they are an endangered species. But the problem is when you say endangered, that is in all of Australia. Yeah. Whereas in small local, like Magnetic Island up in Townsville, they every couple of years have to cull their population there because they have no natural predators, and that population gets out of control to the point that there isn't enough food to sustain them. So they have to artificially reduce those numbers because otherwise you end up with starving koalas. So it is a hard one. It's very nasty to hear. But from what I've seen, they have done their research and it seems to be making the best of a really terrible situation. So you'll see he'll track it down and find the good stuff. He knows to climb up as well.
That's a good photo you've taken.
So these guys are amazing climbers and they've got a really, really strong grip. So they have 2 thumbs on their inside foot, and that allows them to really grab and grip and hold and climb very small branches. They have extremely powerful forearms and shoulders. They can easily support their whole body weight on one arm and even pull themselves up and grab. When lifting a koala, you should never lift around the waist or from the back. Their strongest point is on their wrists because that's where all their muscles are concentrated. You can kill a koala very easily if you try and grab it around the waist. They have very fragile floating ribs that you can break really easy and damage internal organs. So whenever we have to do a catch up with Sean, the way you do it is you grab and secure his wrists and then lift him up onto your arm. So you're never holding him around the waist or anything like that. There you go, having a little munch. So what he's eating now is peppermint gum. That is like chocolate for Sean. It is his favorite type over anything else. Of the species we feed him, he loves peppermint gum. And he can smell that out. And you'll see if we just put in one random stick of it, he'll always just beeline to that and chew it down before he goes and eats anything else. That's the one he targets the most and definitely prefers. And really funny, it's different between koala species as well. So Koala, the one we used to have, he really loved lemon scented gum. That was one he really preferred. Sean wasn't as keen on it. So they got individual tastes. With our emus, Henry loves grapes, thinks they're the best thing in the world. Ash is like not that fussed on them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so same as humans, individuals, they prefer certain types of things. Yes, he does a pretty good job, hey?
He does. He does a brilliant job.
So, and you'll notice here, see how it's quite flat?
Yeah.
So that's his pelvis, and it's evolved to become a seat. So it's this big, thick plate of bone, and they wedge that into gaps in the branches, and that pretty much locks them in place. So that's how they sleep in trees so easily. They wedge their butt down, and then those claws just kind of get stuck in the bark, and they can just hold themselves in the tree. So on average, koalas sleep about 20 to 21 hours a day. That's like it's not 21 hours straight and then they're awake for 3 hours. They'll wake up for 15, 20 minutes, have a feed, and then have a power nap. And then they might wake up again in a couple of hours and have another feed. So Sean, he'll have a big munch now for half an hour or so, and then he'll pass out again, and then maybe 7, 8 o'clock tonight, he might wake up and he'll have another feed.
Right.
Yeah.
So do the koalas get bigger than that?
So here's a northern koala. This is about as big as they get. Southerns can get larger. So genetically, they are the exact same. Just across all animals in colder climates grow larger. So it's cooler weather, it's beneficial to be bigger because you can stay warmer. They quite often have a much thicker coat as well. So Sean, he sits about 7 to 8 kilos is kind of his range he stays in. I've worked with koalas before that were like 12 to 13 kilos, so almost double his size.
Wow.
But yeah, your northern ones, this is about as big as they get. They don't grow very large. It's beneficial to be smaller, lighter. They can stay cooler. In summer, you know, koalas really don't do well in extreme heat. Even out in the wild, they really struggle. That is why there's pretty much not any koalas left in northern Queensland. You know, that slight increase with global warming, that's enough to have really nasty effects on him. Here in captivity, obviously he's got his shade. We also have a mister that goes off throughout the day and cools down the enclosure. So that'll go off, wet down the enclosure, wets the sand, which then evaporates and cools it down. We also offer him something called lactate in summer, which is pretty much like a hydrolyte solution for animals. So it's just got a bunch of different electrolytes, salts, all the nutrients he needs, and we syringe feed that to him, which helps him out a lot. And luckily it's got quite a nice sweet flavour to it, so he really, really loves it as well. It is funny with him, obviously he's blind, so when you poke him in the face with something, it kind of freaks him out. So what we do is we'll do a little bit on our finger and just kind of rub it on his lips, and then he gets the taste for it and he realises what's happening, and then he's always keen to take the syringe afterwards and sit there and drink it. Yeah.
You've never noticed that they had a flat butt before.
Big flat butt. So
No matter unsee it.
closest living relative of the koala is the wombat, and they also have that flat butt. They use it for a different purpose. They use it defensively. mainly these days to fight off dingoes. That's their biggest natural predator here in Australia. Feral dogs are obviously a massive issue now as well. What wombats will do, a dingo tries to attack them, they'll run into their burrow and they'll stop about a metre inside their burrow